Welcome to the Ladies in Biz podcast, where every week we have guests that are amazing female entrepreneurs. Find out how they got started and grew their business. Discover how their story can help you grow your business. Thanks for tuning in today. Here is your host, Penny Redmond.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's been a while since we've done some Ladies in Biz. And I was out and about a few weeks ago, and I met this wonderful woman, Liliana Rizopulos, right here with us. And when I saw her and saw what she was doing, I thought, oh my God, she's got to come on Ladies in Biz. She's got to talk to us because she's got expertise in an area that all business owners really need to know a lot more about, but have a tendency to not ask enough questions about. And that's about building your business, but needing financial assistance along the way. So anyway, so Liliana is an expert in that. She's the owner and president of Liquid Capital Financial Services, and her company provides financial solutions to small and medium-sized businesses. And so she's going to be able to share a lot with us today. She's had over 25 years of experience working in the financial world and working with some of the larger companies, but recognized that these small and medium-sized businesses really needed some help. So Liliana, I don't want to steal any more thunder. I want to get started here. So tell us how you started your business. What got you going?
Well, thank you first, Penny, for having me in your podcast. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to continue what I like doing the most, which is helping business owners succeed. And that is the main answer to your question is that I love helping business owners, and I have been able to do that for so many years, and that's my passion. That's what I like to do. I bought this company in 2016. Moving directly from Sweden to Canada and looking for something to do on my own, and for an opportunity to continue helping business owners in the financial world, because that's my thing. I've worked with finance for many years, and always helping business owners find the right financing solution. Not everything works for everybody, and so basically, yeah, that's the reason, because I started my business.
Hey, Liliana, one of the things that I noticed, that I know that you know a lot of languages, and I think that's really cool. I mean, everybody wishes they could speak a lot of languages, but you've also lived abroad and stuff like that. So I think that what you also bring to the table is a real international outlook in businesses. So for the businesses today that are listening to this, Liliana, what she's going to talk to us about is something that you can use if you're in any country. Liliana pretty much can help you in any country.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And not only that, but also if you want to explore new markets, and if you want to, start exporting, or if you want to import something, you will always have, and in this world that is more and more global, you will need the expertise, and you will need the help and the support, especially financially, in order to be able to do that, because the idea, every business owner wants to grow their company, and the best way to grow it is to reach new markets, but in order to be able to do that, they need the financial support. So that's also part of what I bring. I have lived in 6 different countries and worked in all of them, and there are different cultures and everything, but at the end of the day, the things that are crucial and important for a business, it really doesn't matter where you are. The support we can bring is very good, and it can open new doors, and that's, I think, what all business owners want to do.
And I think it's kind of scary for some business owners initially to think that they can be an international business. But with technology today, I think most businesses have to look at it that way, that they are going to be international. They're not going to be just in one country.
Yes, of course. And you're completely right. So that's a part of what I do. And of course, taking advantage of my experience, then, I can help a lot of business owners, and I have. So something I'm very proud of.
And you should be, because one of the things that I keep hearing from a lot of women that I talk to that are ready to move on, they probably hit a plateau and they know they need maybe some more financial backing in order to do it, but they're a little afraid of it, and they're afraid of the obstacles that are going to come. So what is the biggest obstacle you see businesses are coping with right now?
Well, it depends on where you are in business actually at the moment, but for some companies that are fairly new, that the being fairly new is an obstacle, because most of the financing is available for companies that been around at least 2 years, and they can show results for at least 2 years. And if you can't show that, then you're not going to get the financing you need from the traditional financing options there are.
Yeah, and actually what I hear more often, it's more like 3 years, 2 years, is they're being really generous, but normally they're asking for at least 3.
Exactly.
3 really good years.
Yeah. And there are every business is different, and sometimes the traditional, banks, they really don't understand the business, because their model is made for businesses that are very that have like don't have seasonality, so their revenues have to be very equal, and spread evenly throughout the time. And if you have a business where there is seasonality, then you're going to have the peaks of revenues, and then lots of expenses, not revenues to cover that, and so on. So that's another obstacle that normally disqualify you for traditional financing. Another thing, you've had a bad year, a challenging year for one or another reason. You have planned an expansion, it didn't happen, someone left, you had a customer that didn't pay on time, for whatever reason, and then it hits your business, and then all of a sudden the bank is closing the doors to you. That's another very typical obstacle that we see. And fast-growing companies, because banks or the traditional financing, they're always basing their assessment in your past. So if you had so much revenues in the past, then they're not going to be open for whatever your potential is, or what you're planning to do in the future, and then they will limit what they can support you with. So those are, I think, the major obstacles that small and medium-sized owners find in obtaining the financing they need.
I really believe too that I have never seen, I've been involved in a lot of industries, a lot of businesses as a consultant and as part of their in-house team, but I've never seen a company where it's always perfect. There's going to be ups and downs. And I find that the traditional financing options, they don't care those downs. You can come up with very good, valid reasons. And some that you just mentioned about seasonality, about having, a bad year where maybe your supplier hadn't paid, just like you said. But there's so many other things that can happen in business that you just don't count for. Like I can remember one day just a supplier coming up to me, a major supplier, saying, by the way, we're not going to supply you anymore. Yeah. So in businesses, you never know. So there is going to be challenges you
never know, and you need to be prepared. You need to be prepared. That's extremely
exactly.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, being prepared, we all know that when we're doing our P&L as a business, we always look at cash flow. And cash flow for any business is
key.
It's really important.
Yeah, exactly. It's extremely, extremely important. And in order to prevent a cash crisis on your company, first you need to know your numbers, and you need to have a very clear picture of what's going to happen in the next 90 to 120 days in terms of cash flow, because it's not a profit and loss statement, it's not your balance sheet. Those are nice to have, and you can use for other things, but the heart of your company is in your cash flow. And where you're going to get hit first, and the troubles show first, is in a cash flow. So you need to always know what's in your cash flow, what's in your projections, what is going to happen if I get something like what you just mentioned. If my supplier it closes the doors, or doesn't want to provide me with the normal terms that I was getting, 30 days, whatever it was, or if my major customer cancels an order, or you never know, all things that can happen. So you have to know how that is going to impact your cash flow, and then you have to have the resources, or at least have thought in advance how you would offset a situation like that.
So, Liliana, is there a magic number then for a business when they're looking at their P&L and they're looking at the cash flow? Is there a magic number saying, okay, I know for sure I'm good for 120 days? Okay, that was a number you mentioned, but is there something where you look at it and you say, okay, I know I'm good for 6 months?
Oh, you need to stay cash flow positive. That's
for sure.
Zero is the number, over zero. You need to stay cash flow positive, because the moment your cash flow goes negative, then you are in big trouble, and then it goes very fast. Where from the moment you encounter the problem, it just goes down and down and down, because you're consuming the cash flow that you have, and it is a very limited resource for most companies. So yeah, there are things that you cannot prevent in order to have your cash flow positive. But one thing you can do is to have resources, options to add to my cash flow in case one of these things happen. So you always need to think, okay, if this would happen, how could I survive this crisis, and how could I turn my cash flow into something positive until the whatever it is that happened recovers, changes, or
always have a plan B in place then. So make sure that you have a resource that you can definitely go to should you end up.
Yeah, exactly.
So you should be everybody's best friend, really.
Yeah.
Even when they're doing very well, you should be their best friend.
Yeah. And you know what? As an investor, when you are have your placing your investments, people always gives you the advice of diversify. You have to diversify. Don't put all the eggs in the same basket. But what many people haven't heard is that it goes the same for your financing. You need to diversify your sources of financing, because the moment if you have only one source of financing and it closes, the
doors close,
what are you going to do? Then you're going to be in a very bad position if you're in a rush, running around trying to find financing in the last minute. That's going to be more expensive for you. It's going to cause a lot of stress, and so many things. So you always need to diversify not only your investments, but also your sources of financing, and have some doors open in case you need them.
I can totally understand that too, that you should have multiple sources, and so if you do run into trouble, then they're there for you, and you're not going to wait too late. I think the worst thing any business could do is wait when they're in bad shape. And then it could be irreversible, all the problems that have been created. And it takes a lot longer time to get out of that hole. And I also think it's also a big mindset for people as well, because if you're in that red cash flow, then your mindset isn't about growth, it's about survival. And so speaking of that, is one of the questions I had here is, what's the biggest obstacle for business owners to sustain growth?
And that is basically, it is in many cases the lack of financing, because if you have your demand, and if you, let's say you get a large order or something like that, that you want to, you want to fulfill, you want to be able to do this deal that is going to bring so much money, it's going to put your company in the next step. You need to have the financing to do that. So if you don't have that, if you don't have the means to, whatever you do, get the resources in order to fulfill whatever your business is, goods or services, you have to buy inventory, you have to contract new people, attract, anything that you need in order to complete your order. If you don't have the financing, if you don't have the means to do it, you will lose the deal. You won't be able to do it. So that's also a part of why you, not only for bad times, but for extra good times, or unexpected good news that, okay, now your largest customer is going to triple their orders, and they want to stay with you as long as you can, supply whatever it is. So you have that support, and you can act fast on it. So
particularly with the terms are a big factor. So if you had a big customer that decided to really increase their order, and all of a sudden you have to get raw goods and everything like that, it takes a long time for you to be able to get that money back, because the terms, I don't know about most businesses, but the ones in the industries I've been in, the terms are getting longer and longer and longer, which means that there's a bigger crunch at the very beginning when you're growing your business. And it's hard to believe that businesses aren't able to even grow their business because they don't have the cash to be able to do it. It's
sad because, the opportunities come, and they, if you can't take advantage of it, then it's gone. Many of us would love to have a contract with a large corporation, something like that. And, we're working so much to get, their contacts, and finally have the meeting, do my presentation, sell whatever it is, and everything goes fine. Okay, the order is in place. Now, okay, do I have the capacity to do it? You have to have that also, planned ahead of time before you go for it. So that's I think that's the major obstacle to growth, to have the financial resources in order to complete your orders.
When I was working for a retailer, I know that we looked at some suppliers that were mid-sized suppliers. We were a big retailer. Mm-hmm. And, it was a horrible thing, because as a buyer, you were put in a position where with these smaller businesses that you could actually make them the best year that they've ever had. Mm-hmm. But also those risks are so much higher, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, it's a puzzle, and you need to have, all the pieces in place, especially if you want to grow and take your business to the next stage.
So we're talking right now, we're sort of focusing on the idea that you're having a big customer come in, but for when people are working or trying to find financing, I guess the best bet is if they have a contract with that other individual, right, or company that's giving them the business. Is that what you look for? Is a contract, or is it word of mouth, or what is the checks and balances that are needed then?
When you get, you mean if I get a large contract as a financing entity, what we look for is that there is a purchase order, that there is a firm purchase order, and that you would have the capacity to deliver. So not that you have done this before, of course, because it's very difficult if it's a very first time you're going to do something, or if you come up with a new technology that has never been proven, then you're going to find a lot of challenges finding financing for that. So the normal course is that you have your products or your services proven, you have already some small customers where you have delivered and everyone is, all your customers are happy with the results. You didn't get a lot of returns and, these kinds of problems. And then that shows that you have the operational capacity to deliver. And then that's of course part of the assessment that we do. And then, the part that is offering you the order, that is asking you for your goods or services, they have the capacity to pay for that. Of course, that's a big part.
Oh yeah, that's the bigger part.
Yes, of course. But if you're aiming for a large corporation or something, like, normally they are strong companies and they have the strength and they have the capacity to pay. So it's basically that you can make it, that you can do it. And normally, you have this, if you're not a first timer, even if you have only been in business for 2 years, 2 years is a long time when you have delivered, when you have built a small customer base, and we can tell that you're able to produce or to deliver on that purchase order.
So for small businesses, when they do need the cash because they want to have it grow, or there's all those other circumstances that could possibly happen, the banks definitely, and not knocking the banks because there's definitely a reason why they're there today.
Sure.
They'll demand a lot of information, which is valid information, but you are often dealing, and I'm going to just speak really here about women and solopreneurs as women, they're going to have a lot more trouble at the banks in order to get money.
Yeah.
Unless they have someone else to sign with them. And so, and I think that what most businesses don't know is who they can have that's other alternatives. And that's why I wanted you to come on the show so badly, was because I wanted entrepreneurs to know that it's just not the banks out there that can help you out. There's people like yourself in your company, like Look for Capital Financial Services, that is there, and that you are going to look at it probably in a little different way. So can you tell me about alternative financing and what's the process here?
Sure. And yes, there is the traditional form of financing, which are the banks and the BDCs and sources that traditionally companies have used. And the thing is that they give you the money or they offer you the money when you don't need it, but when you need it the most, they shine away, and then you find yourself, okay, what am I going to do? There are options, so there are alternatives, and the depending on exactly what you need. Alternative financing can offer you a world of possibilities to what you can do outside of the traditional banking world. The thing with alternative financing is you need to be open-minded. You need to be ready to pay more for the financing, of course, because the price of the financing is very dependent on the risk. So the banks are very risk adverse, and that's why their financing is the pricing is lower. When you move into alternative financing, you need to be prepared to pay a higher interest rate, premium rate, whatever option you're going for. But then you have to know your numbers. You have to consider, okay, if I land this contract, the moment you're sending a proposal and you're calculating your price, you need to have looked into how you're going to finance that, and then include those costs in the price you're proposing, because those costs are going to be higher than what you usually pay in the bank. If you have the margins to sustain, there are no limits, because alternative financing is not, we look at your performance in the past, but we're very much focused on what is going to happen in the future and your capacity to operationally deliver. But we look at things with a completely different perspective. So it's good to know there is an option. It's good to have these contacts, near you, so that you can always ask and see the moment you have your limits at the bank, you have topped your limits and you need more resources. What can I do? Where can I go? There are many options.
And you know what, Liliana, you mentioned one thing that I think is really important. I want to go back over it because I want to sort of flag it as being so important, because I've seen this before with businesses as well, as that when you're have this new business coming, you should know, like a Liliana is telling you, is you should know what that rate is that it's going to cost you to get the money, because you put that in the cost of goods.
Yeah.
So if you get it and you know, and you talk to Liliana before, you know what that percentage is. So before you even make an offer to the person, who you're selling it to, it's already in your cost. So you're going to still make the same amount of money. You're not going to just take it and say, oh gosh, we just lost that amount of percent because we had to go get money. What you want to say is that we put that in our cost. We're okay, and our customer is okay with the cost. And so we're still going to make the same amount of money, even if we didn't have to go and finance it.
Yeah, and there are business decisions, sometimes, your margin in the deal is not going to be as much as you used to be, but what happens is that, okay, you sacrifice that margin, but you move into the next step, and now you're at a different point. And eventually, when you can show the results to the banks, they will be able to give you a higher limit. They will increase your, if things go the right way. So when that happens, then the cost of financing is going to go down, and then you can go back to your margins. But it's all part of a strategy. It's a growth strategy.
It is, and it's not necessarily always in a straight line.
Exactly. Oh no.
Too, what you're saying too is that you could take a lower markup percent, but you're going to increase your markup dollars in the end because you're increased your sales.
Yes.
And it's put you in such a more favorable place to move forward in order to continue with that growth, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So you can take advantage of economies of scale and so on. Maybe not in the very beginning, but as you continue growth, it's going to reflect in a better, final line in your statements. So yeah, it's all part of a strategy.
Now, the other question that I had here had to do with factoring and how it can be used to leverage our growth. And I've read a little bit about this, but can you really explain this a little bit more?
Yeah, factoring is something that is, it's actually a very good resource when you have very limited cash flow and you want your business to grow. So what happens is that normally the cash flow is restricted because of it's just a matter of time. So when do I have to pay my suppliers, or when do I have to make my payroll and cover all my costs? And then compared to when do I get my revenues? Because you can have a lot of sales, but it can also happen at the same time you look into your bank account and numbers are in red. So what's going on? You're receiving your payments on time. And normally, if you have a contract with large corporation, the minimum you have to offer them in terms of paying terms is 30 days, sometimes 45 days. If you're exporting, good luck, because the international payers take longer. If you're exporting to Asia, to Latin America, then payment terms go 90 days, maybe something over that. So you have to be prepared to cover the cost in between. So what factoring is basically that the company that is doing the factoring, let's say it's me, I will purchase your invoices. So the moment you send the invoice with a 45-day terms, you will have the money in your account the day after. You don't have to wait 45 days to get paid. Mm-hmm. And then what we do is we purchase that invoice to a discount price. And then we wait. When we collect, then we can wait for collection, and then there is like a reserve. So we normally advance between 80 and 90% of that amount, of the invoice amount, and then when we collect, we will give you the 20% that was held in reserve. But it makes life so much easier for business owners because they're getting their money right away, and they are being able to cover the costs right away. Not to say, if your suppliers sometimes give you 30 days and you say, okay, I'll be able to pay you in 15 days, would you give me a discount? They can take advantage of discounts with suppliers. Having the money right away gives you lots of advantages. So that is basically factoring. It just facilitates the cash flow. It makes it, get to you faster. But
So,
that's basically it.
so what would happen then if I was in that circumstance and I had a big customer, their terms were net 90, I needed that cash flow, so you said, okay, let's do some factoring in this. We'll take those invoices as soon as you send the invoice out, then we'll give you the cash. Now, if that supplier didn't pay, then am I the one that's responsible for making sure that I get the money? Or are you the firm that would be the person that's responsible for getting the money?
Yeah, there is something called credit insurance. That is a beautiful thing. And credit insurance is really good. Even if you don't do factoring, I always advise business owners about getting credit insurance, because you never know when your customer will go out of business, something happened, the money didn't come, and you are sitting there with a huge loss. That I have seen businesses getting in huge trouble because of this. So you should always, as long as you're not receiving your payments in cash right away after you deliver your goods or services, you should always have a coverage in case that payment never comes. Because especially these times, you never know what's going to happen. There is a lot of uncertainties everywhere in so many industries. Everything is changing so fast. Large corporations are going out of business like this,
Mm-hmm.
and you can never be 100% sure that you're going to collect in 100% of your and your invoices that are outstanding. So that's the best thing that can happen is that, okay, credit insurance covers normally around 90% of the amount of the invoice. So, okay, you might have a 10%. Normally, it's just a margin that you would be losing, but at least, you're covered for such situation.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then, of course, we require from our clients that they get the insurance, because yes, that they are, and to make it clear, the factoring is recourse. So if we don't collect on the invoice that we purchased, you would have to compensate. What happens is we sell you back that invoice and you have to purchase. Yeah,
Got it. Well,
so,
yeah.
You have the credit insurance, everybody's happy, and so it's a good thing.
You know what? I don't even like raising it because it sounds so negative, but I've seen in business things happen, and one of the things that we talked about is be prepared for when things like that happen, so you know what your choices are. The worst thing for any company is not to be able to make payroll. So you always should have someone like yourself in your back pocket to be able to reach out to, so that you never get in a position like that, particularly for when you're paying your employees.
Exactly. So,
and plus, you don't want your employees to know that you've got cash flow problems, right? You want them to be able to come to work and work with confidence and knowing that they're going to get paid.
Exactly. No, you don't want. Well, you want you don't want to have any cash flow problems, because it causes a lot of pain, not only financial in business. People just can't sleep, they go crazy. It's very stressful. They see like all the pieces are coming down, and it happens very fast and unexpectedly. So you always need to be prepared to have your, as I told you at the beginning, your diverse sources of capital, where you, if this door is closing, this one, is available, is open, and I can always have that option.
So Liliana, if say that I was in a business and I knew that I had to come to you because of my cash flow issues, what is the first thing that you ask a company to provide you to be able to make an assessment?
Normally, we require, we will have a conversation on, okay, I hope that you don't reach to me when you have the cash flow problem. I hope that you reached to me before. But if you are super stressed and want to reach out to me, I will, of course, do everything in my power to help you. But in the beginning, we will require financial statements, exactly what a bank would ask for. So we want to know the nature of your business. We want to know we want to see your financial statements, where you are in terms of accounts receivable, accounts payable. Are you paying your suppliers? How are you doing with CRA? And you can't. The good thing with alternative financing is that, for example, you have problems with CRA. Everyone's going to close doors to you immediately. Alternative financing is there for companies that are, you owe money to CRA. You still have an option. So it's not the end of the road. There are options, but you have to act as soon as possible. And not in the last minute. But if you're in the last minute, we will try to do as much as possible to help.
So say you were able to take a look at everybody's books and then you said, okay, this looks fine. You're definitely in a position where you feel comfortable giving you some money. How long does it normally to take that money to get to your business?
It's very fast. We're very fast. So, it changes between companies, but a liquid capital will take us around 5 business days before we are able to fund. Once we have all the information, that we need. We do, of course, a very thorough due diligence, because we are looking at normally businesses that imply much more risk than a traditional business that is going to a bank. So we need to really have a good understanding of what is happening, and we need to have a clarity that you're going to get out of the trouble where you are, or that you don't need necessarily to be in trouble, but you would be good trouble, to land a large contract and need the money to do that. But we need to understand that you're going to succeed, because the key for us getting paid is that you are successful. That's the key. That's what we look at. And of course, a big part of what we do is advising you as well, because we have seen so many companies in all kind of different trouble, and we know, okay, we can advise you. And if we can't help you, we usually have someone else that can't help you. The world of non-traditional financing, we are always, there is a lot of networking between all the different sources of financing, so that I can't help you, but I can find someone else that does it. And I'll be very happy, because my objective is really to help and, see the person get out of trouble and succeed.
So one of the things I'm hearing that it's really important though is don't wait. Just if you see that there's an issue, get on top of it right away as a business.
Yes, exactly.
One of the things that it must be so amazing what you do, because you'll see so many different businesses, different business models, see where people are growing and where their challenges are. And I think because of that knowledge, I'm going to put you on the spot here, is because I wrote here, you'll give a free consultation to someone.
Yeah. Well, that's what I usually do. If someone is curious and wants to hear more about alternative financing, and just to have a strategy, you don't need to be in trouble. You just want to have a strategy for, for managing your cash flow, and you want to have a diverse source of financing. Just give me a call. I will be happy to speak with you for 20 minutes and see. Give you options, give you ideas on what you can do. If it's either good news because you got a new contract, or if it's bad news because the bank is closing the doors or not providing you with what you need and you have a negative cash flow, anything, we are like priests. We want to anybody, but if you tell us your problem, maybe we will be able to help you. And in ways you can't imagine. So we're there.
Well, because you have so much exposure to all this type of business, you can certainly offer different strategies and solutions to business that maybe they haven't even thought of.
Exactly. So yeah, there is always a solution for everything. We just, what I like the most about helping entrepreneurs is that it takes a lot of creativity to solve all sorts of problems and get over different solutions, finding different ways to get there, and it's fun. It's for me, being able to help and find, every time, okay, this is challenging. I love challenges. Otherwise I wouldn't work and, do what I do, and finding solutions where no one else can find them. So.
Good. So anyway, so we talked about your consultation. So can you give some people, our listeners, let them know what's the easiest way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, my phone number. Do you want me to tell my phone number?
We can post it. We can post it on the bottom.
That would be great.
Would you rather them call you than reach out by email? Is there a choice? Or?
Well, send me an email. But if you call me out of the blue, the thing is that I try to answer all my calls, but I can only take attention one thing at a time. So if you send me an email, and we can book a 20-minute call and tell me what's worrying you, or what are your expectations, what are your needs, and we can talk. Absolutely.
That's terrific. So in your email address is, I'm going to put it down in the bottom of the notes, but we're going to make sure that everyone knows it.
Exactly. So my email address is lrizopulos@liquidcapitalcorp.com. So I think it's better that you look and
I'll put it in print because I don't know about anybody else. I might have some problem with some spelling.
Yes, exactly.
It actually isn't that difficult when you see it.
Yeah, exactly. It's easier to click on it, and then you will be able to get.
Yeah, so we'll do a link to that in the bottom of the show notes, so everyone can definitely contact you there.
Yeah.
And we'll do the telephone number, but I think email might be a better choice. So Liliana, thanks so much for coming on, because I know these are questions that people always wonder about. That life is good, their business is good, but sometimes it can turn faster than you could ever imagine. And it's always good to have plan B in place before you really need that plan B.
Yeah, so, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's always fun to be able to help, and I'm here.
Okay, well, watch out. You might be some calls coming in from our listeners.
Right.
Anyway, so thank you again for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Penny.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Ladies in Biz. Send us your comments on ladiesinbiz.com. We would like to hear from you.